You know, who wouldn't want your own pub and your own nail bar? But on a serious note, the reason we've built such a big enclosure here today is just to provide that message that bigger is always better. Guinea pigs love exploring, they love foraging, you know, it's really good for their mental well-being. So the bigger space you can provide them, the better. And I think ours are having a really nice time today.
Ziggy is getting through that lettuce leaf. I'll leave you to enjoy that. Thank you, Helen, for joining us. Come with me this way as the organisers are continuing to get the event underway here. You can hear the drilling going on because we've got dancing dogs here, because the show here is all about how music is impacting your pet's. Trip Hazard is a Trip Hazard here, and Lucy, who looks after Trip Hazard, you've been on Britain's Got Talent, came 5th on that. Also, European UK dog dancing champions. Right, yeah. How'd you get into this?
To be honest, we used to watch it at Crufts when I was younger, and I wasn't allowed a dog of my own, and I thought it was the most magical thing I'd ever seen, the bond between the dog and owner, and I just knew that when I got my first dog, I really wanted to give it a go.
And, I mean, if anyone fancies doing this at home, what's your advice?
Oh, find what your dog really, really loves, their favourite treats, their favourite toy, and definitely use that to teach them and reward them for all the tricks.
Well, have you got a treat for me to perhaps test something out now? Rummaging around for a treat. Right, we've been practising this all morning. Wish me luck. Volt, 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 volt. Hey, there we go. Oh, it was better earlier, but that is something I've learned this morning.
The People's Channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GB News exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends. Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good morning, it's 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday the 14th of October, live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with me, Alex Armstrong, and Miriam Cates.
Well, is there going to be peace in the Middle East? Donald Trump celebrates a new chapter in history.
It took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up.
But the United States president says he's only getting started as he sets his sights on peace in Ukraine next. Meanwhile, our Prime Minister takes credit for a deal some say he did nothing to achieve.
We stand ready in relation to monitoring the ceasefire and decommissioning Hamas capability and weaponry.
Well, as celebrations continue in Tel Aviv and throughout the Palestinian territories, there are still some signs of violence, with Hamas executing collaborators and rival clans as well. Also here in Britain, I'll be discussing the latest on the grooming gang inquiry, 4 months on since Sir Keir Starmer announced it, but still little signs of progress. All that to come with me later.
And unfortunately for Sir Keir Starmer, his interaction with Donald Trump at the Peace Summit in Egypt went viral, but not for the right reasons.
Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice of you here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice.
That suggestions that the government concealed evidence, withdrew witnesses, or restricted the ability of witnesses to draw on particular bits of evidence are all untrue.
Security Minister Dan Jarvis insists Labour have nothing to hide after the collapse of the trial against the 2 alleged Chinese spies. Find out how MI5 got involved.
And an Afghan migrant found guilty of threatening to kill Nigel Farage in a TikTok post will be sentenced today. We'll hear from the Reform leader soon.
And former footballer Alan Shearer and the actor Michael Caine, ironically, joined calls for the PM to lead with courage and outlaw smacking children in England. What do you think of that?
You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer has said that this so-called Brit card would help to tackle illegal immigration. But there are now concerns it might let people self-identify their own gender.
And women have been excluded. Find out why females over the age of 12 were banned by a mosque for taking part in a charity fun run this weekend.
Alex, every few years this idea rears its head that we should stop parents from smacking their children. But the fact is it's already illegal to smack a child hard enough to leave a mark or to do anything that's not reasonable chastisement. It wouldn't stop child abuse. It would just stop good parents using their own judgment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a good smack helps a child sometimes know their place. I mean, do you like a good smack? We all have a good smack.
Well, if you don't keep to the script, Alex, you might get one. I just think it's crazy, but we are going to be debating that later. And why on earth are celebrities getting involved in this?
Yeah, no, but the thing is that everyone wants to say, oh, I'm such a good parent, I don't need to smack my kids for them to behave. But actually, I think what's really lacking about many young people in society today is the lack of authority and the lack of respect for authority. You see it with the police, with teachers, with any authority figure, don't you?
Yeah, well, you could hardly say that a lack of discipline has had a good impact. Just ask any secondary school teacher about the decline in behaviour over the last few years. Anyway, let us know what you think about that and everything else. Go on gbnews.com/Your Say.
But first, here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you very much. The top stories. The last 20 surviving Israeli hostages were finally reunited with their families, ending 2 years in Hamas captivity. In exchange, nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees were released under President Trump's historic peace accord. Mr. Trump said he hopes the peace agreement signed at the global summit in Egypt will lead to the rebuilding of Gaza. Elsewhere, thousands of homes fitted with insulation under a flagship government scheme now need major remedial work or risk damp and mould, the public spending watchdog has warned today. Wage growth in the UK cooled slightly over the summer as unemployment ticked up marginally. Annual growth in employees' average earnings was 4.7% in the 3 months to August, according to new data from the ONS. The national unemployment rate rose slightly from 4.7% to 4.8%. And people should plan for potential cyber attacks by going back to pen and paper, according to the latest advice. The government has written to chief executives across the country, strongly recommending that they should have physical copies of their plans at the ready as a precaution. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more from me in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello and welcome back. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom on GB News with me, Alex Armstrong, and Miriam Cates.
Well, yesterday was a momentous day, Alex. Of course, we were covering that new peace deal and the incredibly emotional handing over of those 20 hostages. But then all the world leaders went to Sharm el-Sheikh, and Donald Trump had a little bit of fun on the podium, didn't he?
Oh, it's just absolutely glorious, isn't it? Should we have a quick look at his first interaction with Mark Carney?
Thanks. So you going back?
I'll go back. I'm glad you upgraded me to president.
Oh, did I say? Great stuff.
That's good. I started.
We said in
Great stuff. That was great.
So for those of you listening on the radio, President Trump accidentally called Mark Carney the President of Canada. Of course, he's the Prime Minister, which Mark Carney rather liked. But then Trump downgraded him to governor.
Yeah, governor.
Which, of course, he would be if Canada was the 51st state.
It might happen. It might happen. If Trump gets his way, it might happen. You never know, right? Stranger things have happened in this world. Then I think this is the most humiliating, awkward interaction, I think, for the Prime Minister on the world stage, where he's, of course, heralded by the British press as, oh, he's great on the world stage. Let's take a little look.
Where's the United Kingdom? Where's Russia? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice.
Again, for those of you listening on the radio, Trump beckons to Starmer to approach the podium, talks to him, looks like he's going to give him the microphone, and then just walks in front of him and blocks him access. I don't think it looks deliberate, but it is very embarrassing.
It's really embarrassing. You can tell if you see the bit after it, and there's loads of clips of this online. The Prime Minister sort of gets back. He looks red in the face. Then he puts on this smile that lasts. It's a very, very brief smile. It lasts about 10 seconds, and then his face just drops because obviously he knew he'd just been humiliated. He thought he was going to speak to the world, and that opportunity was taken away.
And interestingly, Downing Street have tweeted out a still of Trump and Starmer in conversation rather than the moving video. But Macron, President Macron of France, he thought he'd learnt the lesson from Starmer and Carney and thought he'd try to look a little bit more masculine. Here's how that went.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, that's the hate.
So approaches for a handshake, and Donald Trump rather steals his hand, holds on to it, still holding on to it.
Look at
still
the blood.
shaking his hand, still holding on to it.
You can see the redness. Oh, there we go.
Changed position, still holding on to his hand.
Yeah.
Macron clearly desperately now trying to pull away.
I think Macron might be used to this. We've seen him be manhandled by, Brigitte
wife. Yes.
before. So maybe perhaps he's not unfamiliar. Like, Trump just won't let it go, will he? He's not letting it go. And of course, Trump has insulted Macron before, about the Palestine stuff, because, of course, Macron was one of the people calling for the recognition of a Palestinian state. So perhaps Trump was sort of, showing his displeasure in different ways.
I mean, it is all about power play, and Trump's whole shtick for his diplomacy is all about having strength and showing that he won't back down. And that is arguably how he's achieved this deal in the Middle East. But he clearly likes to enjoy this power play with the other world leaders.
Strength through peace, as he says.
Peace through strength.
Peace through strength, exactly. Indeed, thank you very much. We'll get some serious commentary on this. And what happens next? We've got GBNews national reporter Charlie Peters with us. Charlie, what's the latest? Obviously, this is very fragile, isn't it? We're all hoping it stays without there being any more bloodshed. But what's the latest news? Well, there is already bloodshed, Alex, unfortunately, for those in Gaza attempting to resist the return of the rule of Hamas. Of course, a rule that never really left them, even during this 2-year campaign of bombardment and invasion from the IDF. Their stated goal of the IDF and the Israeli military was just to remove Hamas politically and militarily from the coastal enclave. And that's just not happened, has it? Because what we're seeing right now is great celebration about this peace deal, but with tremendous caveats that no one seems to be acknowledging. Hamas is still in charge of the Gaza Strip, and as the IDF withdraws more and more from the location, we're seeing fighters come out of the rubble, as it were, returning from those safe locations, looking very strong, not looking like they've been affected by famine, I might add, as many are claiming, looking well-armed and ready to fight. They look like soldiers, because, of course, that's what they are and that's what they've been doing for 2 years. And they have been executing alleged collaborators or clans that are said to be warring with them. So here are some live shots now. It says Tel Aviv, so where obviously there's going to be so much celebration about this process. But in Gaza, there is fear, I think, because we have seen footage circulating on social media of armed men executing those with face coverings, and the men are wearing the green headbands that we've come to recognise as those worn by Hamas. The men executed have been referred to as collaborators, and we also know that there are ongoing street battles in which dozens of people have been injured, many killed, between Hamas and other warring clans. Now, of course, Hamas has great and very violent control over the people in the Strip, and many people support Hamas. Of course, it's won elections, but at the same time, there are those who think that there is a different way for the Strip to be managed, and there are plenty of anti-Hamas militias who wouldn't necessarily count themselves as pro-Israel, nothing of the sort, but they certainly have a different perspective. And Israel has been known to arm these clans as well. So as the peace deal progresses, we can expect, I think, it's highly likely that there'll be more violence in the Gaza Strip. And it only takes one bad decision, of course, for the armaments that they still retain to go beyond the Gaza Strip, and that'll be an extremely nervous moment if that does happen again.
And one of the first points of this so-called 20-point plan was for Hamas to hand over not only the living hostages, but the bodies of those who've died or been killed in captivity. That hasn't happened yet.
Yes, I thought those live pictures were Gaza. It did look like Tel Aviv to me, so just confirm that is Gaza. That is, I think that's probably South Gaza as well, just basing on the size of the street. What we're showing now is obviously people gathering in that area, and somewhere in that shot we're looking at now, Miriam and Alex, there are 24 bodies of dead hostages who haven't been returned, and there is some fear in Israel that they may never be returned because it's possible that they don't know where those bodies are. Now, I think it's highly likely that one of the problems Hamas has got is that some of the hostages were distributed to different factions inside the Strip, including the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and another group that was involved extremely intensely at the very start of the conflict. In fact, you'll remember that very early on, within the first week or so, a missile struck the car park outside a Christian hospital in North Gaza. That was a misfired rocket launched by the PIJ, although many blamed it on Israel, including some news broadcasters who had to issue apologies. So the PIJ, they have still, it's likely, got some of these hostages as well as Hamas. And there were difficulties, I think, in identifying them, but also I think Hamas will be pushing that line, and they have done in the past, perhaps to say, oh, no, we don't know where they are, we can't possibly return them. It's going to require a lot of coordination. It could be seen potentially as another opportunity for them to keep pressure on the Israeli side to draw some more concessions from them. Because if, we're still in celebration mode in Israel today, there's still celebrations in Hostage Square, but give it a few more days. If those hostages, if those bodies haven't been returned, the mood could sour and demands could ramp up.
Charlie Peters, GBNews national reporter, thank you for bringing us up to speed. Fragile indeed, it certainly seems. OK, moving on. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has arrived at Southwark Crown Court, where 26-year-old Fayez Khan, a small boat migrant, will be sentenced for making a threat to kill the Reform UK leader. There you can see him there entering the courts. We will hopefully hear from Nigel Farage throughout this show, so stay tuned.
Yes, we'll have the latest on that throughout the day, but still ahead.
Of course, we're going to hear from Nigel Farage about that migrant, but up next.
Labour remain adamant that there's been no foul play in the collapsed alleged China spy case. We'll tell you why this matters to you.
But first, let's get some holiday sun forecasting for you on our top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Whilst the UK enjoys some settled, albeit cloudy weather this week, it's going to be increasingly wet on Wednesday in Sardinia and Corsica. Also some patchy rain moving into Madeira, 1 or 2 showers for the Canary Islands, but a lot of fine weather for Iberia at the moment, having seen this low move away. But that's the low bringing some very lively thunderstorms on Wednesday to Sardinia and Corsica, eventually moving through southern Italy into Greece as well, turning things unsettled later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
My dad used to play it constantly, you know, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Matt Monro, Sammy Davis Jr., you name it, I mean, all of them. And I came home one afternoon after school and he had this song playing. It was called Special Angel by Malcolm Vaughan. And it caught my interest. And since then I asked him for a CD, like, you know, a swing CD, and I got it for Christmas. And I was listening to it all the time, and it became a thing, and I started to sing along and got used to it and just really enjoyed it. So it's been my life, really. It has been my life.
I suppose the thing about swing is you've got so many really good songs. Yeah. What do you pick?
They're only 2 minutes, 3 minutes long songs, so if you've got to do an hour's set, there's plenty of songs there, you know, to fill that. You can't just do 10 like pop songs today. You know, they're all 2 minutes 30. I think Fly Me to the Moon.
So did you go, have I got a story with that one? Or is it...
Oh, it's always... Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. It's always about a story. Yeah, it's... any song that I ever choose for any show that I ever do has either got a memory or a story behind it. Because, yeah, swing's been my life, you know what I mean? So I've never sort of drifted anywhere else. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
What I find fascinating with this sort of music, though, is that it's... I mean, it's old now.
Yeah.
It doesn't age.
Well, that's the beauty of it, you know. I think for many years, all these songs, you know, people have covered them. Certainly myself, I have too. My first album was, wow, a long time ago. And
that was called My Way, wasn't it?
Doing It My Way, yes, it was, yeah. And so, for me, all these songs that have been my life since I was a little boy, I've grew up with them, and they don't get old, and they never will. And it takes somebody for myself, you know, like myself, to continue them on. You know, Michael Bublé did it, Robbie Williams did it, and I'm still doing it, you know.
The People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
The Chinese state, Chinese authorities, serious threats threatening. The hostile activity we've seen from Chinese authorities and state-affiliated groups poses a serious threat to the security and well-being of the British people. The reality is that we face threats from around the world, and many of them, sadly, are emerging out of Beijing today. Somebody who is sanctioned, who occasionally gets letters to my home, occasionally gets text messages from random Hong Kong and Beijing numbers. I can only imagine how much more threatening that might be if I had family, if I had connections or relatives in Hong Kong and in mainland China.
Well, that was the Conservative MP Tom Tugendhat repeatedly raising concerns about China in Parliament. And crucially, he was raising those concerns during the last government when the Conservatives were in power. And of course, this is the time at which these alleged spies were supposed to have been passing important materials that they were gathering from MPs in Parliament and sending them over to the Chinese Communist Party. And this case, of course, Alex, has completely collapsed. And the reason that it's collapsed, the CPS say, is because the government won't say that China was a threat. Now, it's clear that the last government thought China was a threat.
Yeah, it certainly is. And not only that, I mean, you should care about this because there have been a lot of free speech breaches as a result of that. And I think the Labour government have rolled back those assurances that the Conservative government were going to put on universities because of their power in this country. And we should care about this anyway.
Well, of course, the controversy has been over whether or not the National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell, was involved in the decision to drop those charges. And, of course, the government say he wasn't.
The Conservative MP for Tonbridge, Tom Tugendhat, joins us now. Tom, thank you very much for talking to us. This is a very important issue, and I don't think many British people understand the threat of China or understand why it's so serious. Perhaps we can start there.
Sure. Well, look, let's start with this particular issue. Now, you may like what I say, or you may not like what I say. You're perfectly free to have a view on it. But I was elected by people in Tonbridge to speak in their interest. I do it to the best of my ability, and I try to do it in a way that is only in their interest. What this has demonstrated is there are some people, in this case the Chinese Communist Party, who are trying to change the way I speak. Right now, that's a direct threat, not just on me, not just on my family, not just on my safety, but on the freedom of the British people to choose who they want to represent them and to allow those people to speak freely. Now, that's problem number one. Problem number two is it appears, for one reason or another, that something has happened to interrupt the independent judicial process in the United Kingdom. Now, you know, there's a few things that we're really proud of in this country. One is our armed forces. I was proud to serve for many years. And the other is our justice system. If the Chinese Communist Party are able to play around in our justice system to interrupt a case that would be to their disadvantage, what the hell does that say about our sovereignty? How can you be sovereign if you can't do justice in your own country?
Now, Tom, linked to this is the Chinese plans to build a so-called super embassy in the heart of London, and many security experts have raised concerns about it, given how close it will be to vital communications wires, the ability, therefore, for enhanced spying, and also some secret rooms in this proposed embassy that the Chinese will not reveal what they are for. How is this related to the ongoing case? Do you think there's a lot of pressure on the government to approve this planning consent?
Well, look, Miriam, I mean, you and I have spoken about China when you were in Parliament, and we've spoken about it a lot since. Because the truth is, China is presenting us with not just a challenge, but a threat across many, many different areas. Some of it's economic, some of it's military, some of it, including in Parliament, is about freedom of speech, and the same is true in universities. What this is doing is kind of bringing it all together, right? Because the economic threat is because where do you think the wires between the city and Canary Wharf go? Well, they go past the Tower of London, don't they? They go underneath the old Royal Mint building, don't they? And that's exactly where the Chinese embassy is. What kind of a message do you think it sends if the biggest embassy, the biggest Chinese embassy in Europe is in London? What does it say to the dissidents, to the Hong Kongers who've come as British nationals, have the right to, have come to the United Kingdom to claim asylum, to claim safety from the Chinese Communist Party? What does it say to our university students who want to express views about everything from, I don't know, climate change or, you know, green policy? We may disagree with them, but they're allowed to do it, right? And China is able to set up an office here which effectively seeks to silence them. What does it say about our sovereignty? I think it says something pretty clear. You know, there is a reason the Tower of London is the symbol of royal sovereignty in the United Kingdom, in London, in the city. Putting the Chinese embassy directly opposite makes a very clear statement.
Tom Tugendhat, Conservative MP for Tonbridge there. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about this very, very important issue.
Well, still coming up, find out why the hard-fought-for grooming gangs inquiry is now being described as a legal mess. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's a dull start for many of us, and that's the way it's likely to continue through the rest of the day, with high pressure in charge, but that high pressure trapping a lot of low cloud, even some drizzle and some mist. But it's not cloudy everywhere. There are some decent breaks for, say, parts of West Wales, the southwest, as well as central and western Scotland. In fact, that's where the lion's share of sunshine will be heading into the afternoon. The thickest cloud towards the east and the southeast, where there'll also be some drizzly showers from time to time. Temperatures under the thick cloud, 14 to 16 Celsius, but where we get some sunshine coming through, could get up to the high teens in places, for example, parts of western Scotland, although the north of Scotland subject to cloudier skies and some light showers from time to time, particularly for Shetland and Orkney. 11 Celsius as we end the day here. A lot of clear skies, though, remaining through the Highlands and to the Western Isles as well. Blue skies, beautiful afternoon and evening to come. But for much of the Midlands, the south and east of England, that's where the thickest cloud will remain. Some cloud breaks towards western fringes, and where we do get cloud breaks overnight, temperatures will fall into the mid or even low single figures, perhaps a touch of frost in places, even some mist and fog patches by dawn. But for many, we keep the cloud, and that cloud will continue to give some light showers, particularly through the North Sea coast and into the English Channel coast as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday starts similar to Thursday, with a lot of low cloud around, that low cloud drifting somewhat aimlessly across the country. Some reasonable cloud breaks, some sunshine coming through in the south of England, south and west Wales and northern Scotland. But elsewhere, it's simply another cloudy day with temperatures a little bit lower compared with Tuesday, mid-teens for many of us.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M8 has restrictions between junctions 24 and 27 due to maintenance, with a 40 miles per hour speed limit. Expect delays. The A42 northbound in Leicestershire is partially closed due to a broken down vehicle. In Warwickshire, congestion affects the A46 southbound between the A429 and the M40. In Swindon, a collision on the A419 northbound at the A420 junction has shut one lane. On the trains, there is disruption on Chiltern Railways between Aylesbury and Amersham and on Greater Anglia between Chelmsford and Shenfield. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 14th of October. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Well, peace in the Middle East. Donald Trump is celebrating a new chapter in history.
It took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up.
But the US president says he's only just getting started as he sets his sights on peace in Ukraine next. Meanwhile, our Prime Minister takes some credit for a deal some say he did nothing to achieve.
I'm ready in relation to monitoring the ceasefire and decommissioning Hamas capability and weaponry.
Well, very unfortunately for Sir Keir, his interaction with Donald Trump at the Peace Summit in Egypt has gone viral. I wonder why.
Come here. Is everything all good?
Very good.
It's very nice of you here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice.
And Nigel Farage arrives at Southwark Crown Court, where an Afghan migrant who was found guilty of threatening to kill the Reform leader will be sentenced today.
that suggestions that the government concealed evidence, withdrew witnesses, or restricted the ability of witnesses to draw on particular bits of evidence are all untrue.
Security Minister Dan Jarvis insists Labour have nothing to hide after the collapse of the trial against the 2 alleged Chinese spies. Find out how MI5 have got involved.
And will there be a smacking ban in England? Well, the former footballer Alan Shearer and the actor Michael Caine join calls for the Prime Minister to lead with courage and outlaw smacking children in England.
You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Sir Keir Starmer said those digital ID cards would help tackle illegal immigration. But now there are concerns it might let people choose, get this, their own gender.
And find out why females over the age of 12 were banned from a mosque by taking part in a charity fund run this weekend.
Well, we knew it was coming, didn't we? Digital ID cards. Well, the only benefit will be to a small percentage of people, Miriam, that want to choose their own gender.
Indeed. Some people are concerned that if you're allowed to say whichever sex you want to be on that card, that it'll be fixed in stone forever. But I just still can't believe that they're pushing ahead with this. If it had been in the manifesto and people had voted for it, well, fair enough. I think it's a terrible idea, but that's democracy. But it wasn't in the manifesto. Nobody's had a vote on this.
And now the Prime Minister's saying there needs to be a national conversation about it. A little bit too late once you've announced you're going to do it and you've responded to a petition of millions of people saying we are going to do it. We know the conversation is going to be one way, it's take it and shut up.
And they initially said this is only for work purposes to stop illegal migrants from getting work, but they've already massively expanded the kinds of uses it might have, even suggesting that children as young as 13 might need a digital ID card.
Bonkers. And the European Union, of course, have rolled out this new face-scanning fingerprint system, so they might as well just give it to the government anyway and get it over and done with. Disaster, isn't it? What do you think? GBNews.com/your say.
But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good morning. The top stories. The last 20 surviving Israeli hostages were finally reunited with their families, ending 2 years in Hamas captivity. In exchange, nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees were released under President Trump's historic peace accord. Mr. Trump said he hopes the peace agreement signed at the global summit in Egypt will lead to the rebuilding of Gaza.
And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu echoed the same message.
Mr. President, you are committed to this peace. I am committed to this peace. And together, Mr. President, we will achieve this peace.
Emotional images have emerged of hostages reuniting with their families, including a woman who reunited with her boyfriend after 2 years. And the Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burkhardt, spoke to GB News this morning.
Well, we've got to have hope. We've got to have hope. I think what you saw yesterday was a huge international desire for peace, and you saw all of those world leaders turning up to be with President Trump to support what's going on in the Middle East. And let's just hope that the fighting is ended. We're very, very pleased that the Israeli hostages appear to be coming home finally after their terrible ordeal. We're pleased that the shooting has stopped, and we're pleased that aid is going to be going into Gaza. So, look, there's a very, very long road to travel, but this is how good things start.
Elsewhere, thousands of homes fitted with insulation under a flagship government scheme now need major work or risk damp and mould, the public spending watchdog has warned. A damning report by the National Audit Office said clear failures in the energy company obligation scheme to tackle fuel poverty and pollution has led to low-quality installations and even potential fraud. It blamed incompetent subcontractors and weak monitoring and government oversight for the issues, which in extreme cases could cause fires. Nearly a third of the homes that were given internal insulation also need fixing, it said. Energy Consumer Minister Martin McCluskey said the government was taking action and that the homes would be fixed at no cost to the consumer. Elsewhere, wage growth in the UK cooled slightly over the summer as unemployment ticked up marginally. Annual growth in employees' average earnings was 4.7% in the 3 months to August, down from 4.8% over the 3 months to July, according to new data from the ONS. The national unemployment rate rose slightly from 4.7% to 4.8%. The ONS said the unemployment rate should be treated with caution and is taking additional steps to address concerns about the quality of the data. An Afghan migrant who came to the UK on a small boat is to be sentenced for making a threat to kill Reform UK leader Nigel Farage in a TikTok post. Mr Farage has arrived at Southwark Crown Court this morning, where 26-year-old Fayaz Khan will be sentenced for making a threat to kill him. We'll have the latest throughout the day. Fayaz Khan was convicted of 1 count of threats to kill in relation to that post between October the 12th and the 15th last year. He will also be sentenced for entering the UK illegally. The government says the National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell, was not involved in the decision to drop charges against 2 men accused of spying for China. That's after prosecutors unexpectedly dropped charges against Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry last month. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch claimed the case collapsed because the government had refused to give the Crown Prosecution Service vital information as it wanted to, quote, curry favour with China. Security Minister Dan Jarvis dismissed the claims that the government deliberately collapsed the case as baseless. And finally, people should plan for potential cyber attacks by going back to pen and paper, according to the latest advice. The government has written to chief executives across the country, strongly recommending that they should have physical copies of their plans at the ready as a precaution. A recent spate of hacks has highlighted the chaos that can ensue when hackers take computer systems down. The warning comes as the National Cyber Security Centre reported an increase in nationally significant attacks this year. Criminal hacks on Marks & Spencer, the Co-op and Jaguar Land Rover have led to empty shelves and production lines being halted this year as the companies struggled without their computer systems. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Hello, welcome back. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Kate. And you've been getting in touch already on gbnews.com/your say. Alex, what have the viewers been saying?
Well, off the back of that very interesting piece Tatiana was talking about with all these data breaches and how government want to go back to hard copies, you'd think it's bonkers that we're heading towards digital ID, wouldn't you? I mean, it's absolutely insane. Mike Boone says, because of course there's concerns now that you might be able to list your, choose your gender on your digital ID. Mike Boone says, I'm identifying as a dolphin. Well, there you go. I mean, it could. I mean, there's so many genders now.
That'll be an option.
Well, it might be. I mean, but the question will be, how many genders will they let you pick from? Because there's 1,000 of them these days, isn't there?
Well, the government have said in response to this story that at the moment there's no plans to ask people to put their gender, or we should say sex, on the digital ID card. But they think, well, what's the point of it? It's going to have all sorts of other biometric markers. It would be very odd not to include your sex. The whole thing is a shambles.
It's a total shambles, isn't it?
And I think it's a fair point. Some people say, well, we already give away all our data to tech companies, even to Sainsbury's. That is true, and it should worry us more than it does. But it's not all in the same place, and I think that's the concerning thing.
And it's optional. You don't have to do it. They're saying this will be compulsory. You're also all getting in touch about that clip of Keir Starmer, which it's done the rounds, hasn't it, on the internet the last 24 hours, and all of you are howling. Do you know, the moment I think is the worst bit for me? It's not the fact that Trump snubs him. It's the way he behaves after it. Is when he stands there, his face is like thunder, he's going red, he puts on this smile, then that smile disappears, and then he sort of grabs his arms as if he's sort of been hurt, and then his face drops. It's all of those things, for me, which obviously make me believe that he feels he was snubbed too.
Well, shall we take a look at it again?
Let's take a look.
Where's the United Kingdom? Where's Russia? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
It's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice.
I actually find that really hard to watch, because can you imagine being in his position? He thinks he's been invited to the podium to share a few words with Donald Trump, with the whole world watching, and it becomes clear that he's been snubbed, and then he has to go back and stand there, look emotionless, while the world looks on. I mean, it's everybody's worst nightmare. It really is. I mean, it's funny, but it's also really horrible.
Funny. It's really, really funny. It's funny because, again, it's the expectation that and just as he's turning, he's still looking down the barrel of the... It's just like, you know, it's a comedy. It's a comedy, and it's very funny.
And it doesn't help that because Trump is such a tall man and Starmer's a short man, he completely blocks Starmer out of the frame just by moving in front of him.
You also need to look at the reaction of Georgia Maloney, who, behind him... It's really funny. She's giggling away because she knows
we'll have
what's
to
happened.
watch it again.
We'll have to watch it again. Well, come on then. Let's play it again. Let's play it again. There we go. Look. Watch. There we go.
So Trump indicates to Starmer that he wants him to come forward. Starmer shakes his hand, comes to the podium, looks about to share a few words. Trump stands back in front of Starmer. Starmer moves away and Maloney bites her lip. I know that look. It's like when you crack a joke, Alex, and we're live on air and I have to bite my lip to stop myself laughing. I know exactly how she's feeling. It's going to go down in history, that clip, isn't it? Gold
dust. Trump is the best comedian. He doesn't realise he's funny, and these things just happen around Trump because he's just genuinely hilarious, isn't he? Anyway.
Well, shall we move on? Because, of course, the reason that Starmer and Trump and all the world leaders were there in Sharm el-Sheikh yesterday, because potentially a new dawn has broken over Gaza. And, of course, the last 20 surviving hostages were finally reunited with their families yesterday, ending 2 years in Hamas captivity.
Well, in exchange, nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees were released under President Trump's historic peace accord.
Well, overnight, Donald Trump was challenged on Air Force One over whether it was premature to claim he had ended 3,000 years of conflict in Gaza.
You want more people to be killed? What do you want, another 300,000-400,000 people to be killed? Is that what you're looking for?
But in terms of the risks in Gaza, you know, we're already seeing...
Risk. So you mean let them fight on for another couple of years? And let some more buildings fall down on top of people and keep it going? No, we did it the right way. We did it. I think our timing was perfect, actually.
Well, the award-winning peace negotiator, expert in diplomacy, geopolitics and the Middle East, and a fellow at the Geneva Centre for Security Policy, Nomi Bar-Yaakov, joins us now to discuss the peace deal. Nomi, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Do you think premature is the right word to describe Trump's claim that peace is now won forever?
Thank you, Miriam and Alex, for having me on your show. I don't think he's claiming that peace is here forever. I think he knows that the road to peace is a very long and windy road, but he's trying to gather momentum. And I think that is what the peace summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, yesterday was all about. It was about gathering momentum and ensuring that the momentum continues, because he knows full well that the potential for obstruction, both by Israel and Hamas, of this deal is vast. And it will need the determination of all the leaders around in order to ensure that the path to peace, or at least the path to no war, I would say, rather than peace, is on track. There are plenty of violations already. Hamas, for example, only released 4 bodies yesterday. They were meant to release 28. It was known that they would not be able to find some of the bodies, but the fact that they only turned up with 4 bodies and not 24 out of the 28 was rather shocking and worrying. So it is really all a question of the international enforcement and how much leverage Trump will continue to exercise on Netanyahu, and I think he will, and how much leverage the Egyptians and the Turks and the Qataris will exercise over Hamas.
Indeed. Our national reporter here, Charlie Peters, was giving us an update on the latest in the studio not that long ago, Naomi. He was telling us that Hamas operatives have emerged from the rubble, so to speak, armed. They are assassinating what they call collaborators. It looks very fragile at this moment in time, and of course there are no Israeli forces there. Should they have just finished the job? Perhaps many people will be saying they should have just completely finished the job.
I don't think it is any that finishing the job, as you put it, is possible. I don't think Hamas is a movement. It's not just an armed wing. The Ezzedine al-Qassam is their armed wing. You would have noticed, had you followed the war over the past 2 years, that every time somebody was assassinated, another leader came. They managed to recruit the same number of fighters every time fighters were killed. Yes, they're younger, the fighters now, they're less experienced, but they are still very much alive and kicking in Gaza. So the question is really not whether to kill them all, because that will not get Gaza anywhere, will not get Israel anywhere, quite frankly, will not get anyone anywhere. The question really is how to move forward and how to make this peace deal work, because it's the only deal we have on the table, and it is a landmark moment in that so many countries are backing it up, and it has stopped the fighting. There is a ceasefire in place, and yes, I was highlighting some of the violations, but I was only highlighting it in the sense that we're indicating the fact that we need to continue to be proactive in order to resolve the issues, because there are likely to be, or there will definitely will be, violations on both sides daily. So what we really need is a conflict resolution mechanisms with the Egyptians, with the Qataris, with the Turks, with the US, in order to ensure that every time one side violates the ceasefire agreement, it doesn't escalate into fighting. And we have plenty and plenty of precedents around the world. This is how ceasefires are managed. So this ceasefire came into force very, very quickly. So it's so this mechanism is not present, or it's not as active as we would like it to be, but we see that the mediators are working so hard to ensure that calm prevails. And I think that so far is a good sign.
Now, Naomi, you mentioned the number of countries that were involved in signing this deal and bringing it into being. A lot of those countries are the Gulf states, who have had more normalised relations with Israel over the last few years. How crucial is their ongoing support for the peace deal? And what must Israel do to continue that deepening of a relationship?
So the key Gulf state that's been mediating alongside Egypt and the US is Qatar. They were the lead mediators right from the beginning, and Israel does not have diplomatic relations with Qatar. Not only that it doesn't have diplomatic relations, Israel violated the sovereignty on Qatar by trying to assassinate the very same people who represented Hamas and signed on this deal on the 9th of September, so just over a month ago. So the relationship was very, very tense. And again, that's sort of, I raise my hat to Donald Trump, the US president, who managed to overcome this terrible tension by making Prime Minister Netanyahu call the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, from the Oval Office with plenty of witnesses around, including a Qatari representative. And he basically read from a piece of paper, that is Netanyahu read from a piece of paper, a detailed apology that was drafted for him. And the White House, of course, leaked numerous photos of this famous picture of Trump holding a telephone, Netanyahu holding the receiver, and the audience there ensuring that Netanyahu doesn't sway. That shows a lack of trust between Trump and Netanyahu. It shows that what we're seeing, sort of all of this sort of hunky-dory stuff, is not necessarily what goes on behind the scenes. Also, the White House released that particular statement with the text of the apology while Netanyahu was still in closed doors in the Oval Office, not allowing him to deny it. So I would say that, Trump knows exactly what he's doing. Externally, he says everybody is his best friend, or he's a great man, great guy. That's his style. But behind closed doors, he knows exactly who he's dealing with.
Naomi Bar-Yaakov, thank you so much for joining us this morning to fill us in on all the latest there. Thank you very much.
Yes, really is going to be difficult times ahead.
Yeah, exceptionally fragile, and let's hope it holds. We really do need an end to all these conflicts in the Middle East, don't we, to create some stability there.
Indeed. Well, still ahead, Margaret Thatcher would have turned 100 yesterday.
I have only one thing to say. You turn if you want to. The ladies not for turning.
Yes, there was a star-studded gala dinner in central London last night. We'll have all the latest on that, but up next...
Labour has appointed Rupert Pearce to be their National Armaments Director to manage Britain's military spending. But he has no defence experience. Can you guess what his previous profession was?
I can only... Oh, I don't even want to speculate. This is Britain's Newsroom, of course, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, cast your mind back 20 years to bin man turned X Factor star Andy Abraham. He is back and he's got a new single called Everything That You Do. Let's have a listen. Andy joins us now. It's great to see you. It's a fantastic tune. Why all this and why now?
Do you know, 20 years is a good time to team up with a fantastic producer. And so we come up with this tune and it's, yeah, everybody seems to be liking it. So that's the main thing. But 20 years since X Factor and all that craziness that I went through. So I figured, why not go back into it?
Where has that time gone? So what have you been getting up to in the intervening period?
Oh, God, I've been getting up to all sorts, to be honest, but I've still looked the same, obviously. Still bald. Yeah, I'm just loving life, you know, just enjoying my time with my family. I've been touring, releasing albums. So, yeah, I'm looking to release another album. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, we'll see where it goes. The industry has changed so much, you know. There isn't really a focal point anymore like a Top of the Pops. There just seems to be so many different types of social media outlets, and yeah, it's it feels like there's a lot more work to be done. You know what I mean? But I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it either way. I just love writing songs and teaming up with fantastic producers like Benjamin, and yeah, hopefully it does really, really well.
Well, I hope it does, because it's a really good tune.
Good luck,
Andy,
Andy.
it's great to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 24 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Time now for the Great British Giveaway. Here are all the details you need.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, we're now joined by political commentator Piers Pottinger and GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson in the studio to have a look at the papers. And Piers, shall we start with this story in the Daily Telegraph about how Labour have hired somebody to lead Britain's rearmament efforts at the MOD? So far, so good. But what's his background?
Well, he's a lawyer. What a surprise.
Oh, dear.
Yes, it's extraordinary, really. First of all, it is a good thing because I, for a long time, used to advise BAE, and one of their biggest gripes was always the procurement division of the MOD, who were very difficult to deal with, and mostly staffed by people who had no idea what it's like producing armaments or even bigger pieces of kit. Now, to have someone who's the permanent armaments director, as they're calling him, the National Armaments Director, is a terrific idea. But why go and hire a lawyer? Why not hire someone who actually knows about defence? BAE have got thousands of people they could look at, and people who are maybe coming to the end of their time at BAE, about to retire. Why don't they employ someone there who really knows what it takes to produce the right kind of armaments, or even someone with a military background who knows what they need? This man, Rupert Pearce, he's called, sounds to me a bit, you know, I mean, he's as useful as Rupert the Bear.
Nigel,
we don't actually know that, but when it comes
I'm sure he's a charming bloke.
Yes.
Well, so was Rupert the Bear.
When it comes down to getting somebody who understands armaments, I mean, so far, the MOD itself, who are meant to be the experts, have had an appalling record when it comes to procurement. I mean, they lost 13 billion, completely wasted, between 2010 and 2021. That is, there's that old Yes Prime Minister sketch saying that we buy the missiles, but when we buy the warheads, they don't fit the missiles. That wasn't actually a joke. I mean, we were doing things like that. So if this guy actually can save money, despite his background, that must be for the good.
Well, yeah, well, certainly, but I mean, come on, a lawyer of all the people. I mean, there's expertise in this field all around the world, particularly the United States of America. You know, we look at our allies and we can go, well, perhaps we could get someone even from NATO to come and work. And you just think a lawyer, it just seems like a bit of an odd choice.
Well, we're awash with lawyers, and I mean, our Prime Minister was one, and even he apparently doesn't know how the Crown Prosecution Service works when it comes to China and prosecuting spies, which we should be doing, rather than letting them off scot-free. I mean, we're run by lawyers, and the worst of all being the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, who made his fortune by representing enemies of Britain. It seems that they just seem to think lawyers run the world, and apparently they do.
Well, another arena in which lawyers run the world is the European Court of Human Rights, and the Times are reporting today that 16 countries are backing the UK's plans to reform the European Convention of Human Rights, the ECHR, which has become a bugbear for this government.
Absolutely, and I'm greatly in favour of this, and I think it would be a good thing if it happened. And I say if because in principle they're in favour, but getting 16 countries to agree in detail is a very difficult thing, and I'm not sure that will in the end actually happen. But it's also talking about reducing the power of the courts, not actually abandoning it. So, the lawyers are, and all the human rights lawyers making their fortunes out of the problem with immigration will continue to make their money and cause problems for the government, I'm sure.
Nigel, well, just go ahead.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say was that the only way we can reform the European Convention is everyone gets together. So if you're talking about 16 countries who are starting that process, I mean, this thing is 75 years old. It obviously needs re-looking at. And we've got Italy, France, Germany, Holland on side saying, yes, we need reforms. Let's do that rather than walk out of it, rather than scrap it as the Tories and Reform would do. Let's see if you can make this thing work better.
We could save a lot of money without it.
May I just remind the audience, the last time I heard words of reform in Europe was David Cameron supposedly going cap in hand to our European friends, suggesting he might get some reforms, and the answer was pretty much, here's a few scraps and go away.
But they're different things. I mean,
yes,
the ECHR has nothing to do with the EU.
I know.
David Cameron was going out to try and get a deal with the EU. I think he was a bit naive to actually think that they were going to give him what he wanted, and sure enough they didn't, and Brexit was the result.
Yeah.
But I think it's become clear across Europe how much of a problem mass migration is since then. The times have changed considerably since David Cameron was in power.
Certainly have. Right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you again in a very short period of time. But first up, it's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you. The top stories. The last 20 surviving Israeli hostages were finally reunited with their families, ending 2 years in Hamas captivity. In exchange, nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees were released under President Trump's historic peace accord. Mr. Trump said he hopes the peace agreement signed at the global summit in Egypt will lead to the rebuilding of Gaza. Thousands of homes fitted with insulation under a flagship government scheme now need major work or risk damp and mould, the public spending watchdog has warned. Wage growth in the UK cooled slightly over the summer as unemployment ticked up marginally. Annual growth in employees' average earnings was 4.7% in the 3 months to August, according to new data from the ONS. The national unemployment rate rose slightly from 4.7% to 4.8%. People should plan for potential cyber attacks by going back to pen and paper, according to the latest advice. The government has written to chief executives across the country strongly recommending that they should have physical copies of their plans at the ready as a precaution. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news from me at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up next, a big gala dinner took place in London to mark what would have been Margaret Thatcher's 100th birthday. There were a few speakers you might recognise.
Feels as if this country, under this appalling Labour government, this wonderful country, is being slowly brought to its knees.
Well, he looks like he wants to make a comeback, doesn't he? More on that in just a moment. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's a dull start for many of us, and that's the way it's likely to continue through the rest of the day, with high pressure in charge, but that high pressure trapping a lot of low cloud, even some drizzle and some mist. But it's not cloudy everywhere. There are some decent breaks for, say, parts of West Wales, the southwest, as well as central and western Scotland. In fact, that's where the lion's share of sunshine will be heading into the afternoon. The thickest cloud towards the east and the southeast, where there'll also be some drizzly showers from time to time. Temperatures under the thick cloud, 14 to 16 Celsius, but where we get some sunshine coming through, could get up to the high teens in places, for example, parts of western Scotland, although the north of Scotland subject to cloudier skies and some light showers from time to time, particularly for Shetland and Orkney. 11 Celsius as we end the day here. A lot of clear skies, though, remaining through the Highlands and to the Western Isles as well. Blue skies, beautiful afternoon and evening to come. But for much of the Midlands, the south and east of England, that's where the thickest cloud will remain. Some cloud breaks towards western fringes, and where we do get cloud breaks overnight, temperatures will fall into the mid or even low single figures, perhaps a touch of frost in places, even some mist and fog patches by dawn. But for many, we keep the cloud, and that cloud will continue to give some light showers, particularly through the North Sea coast and into the English Channel coast as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday starts similar to Thursday with a lot of low cloud around, that low cloud drifting somewhat aimlessly across the country. Some reasonable cloud breaks, some sunshine coming through in the south of England, south and west Wales and northern Scotland. But elsewhere, it's simply another cloudy day with temperatures a little bit lower compared with Tuesday, mid-teens for many of us.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M8 is restricted between junctions 24 and 27 for maintenance, with a speed limit of 40 miles per hour. Delays are expected southbound on the A470 at Corriton due to congestion. The A19 northbound in South Tyneside faces 10-minute delays. In Leicestershire, delays are due to a broken vehicle on the A42 northbound. The A5 southbound has half-hour delays near the M42. In Swindon, a collision on the A419 northbound closes one lane. And on the trains, Greater Anglia experiences delays between Chelmsford and Shenfield. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. This is Britain's Newsroom with me, Alex Armstrong, and Miriam Cates.
Well, yesterday marked 100 years since the birth of Margaret Thatcher. The Baroness was the first female British Prime Minister, of course, and the only Prime Minister in the 20th century to win 3 consecutive terms in office. Well, a centenary dinner was held last night in her memory, with several key speakers honouring her legacy. Here's what some of them had to say.
I think they were frightened of her, but that is why she became the woman of steel, the Iron Lady, which I think she rather liked.
We need Margaret Thatcher's clarity and logic today, because it feels as if this country, under this appalling Labour government, this wonderful country, is being slowly brought to its knees. Debt out of control, spending out of control, the cost of government borrowing at a 30-year high, and Rachel Reeves preparing once again to cosh us with her doom loop economics.
A man's right to work as he will, to spend what he earns, to own his own property, to have the state as a servant and not as a master. And it is the family and not the state that is the basic institution of our society.
Well, joining us now is former Conservative Minister Jeffrey Archer. Jeffrey, what a pleasure to have you on GB News. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you think Margaret Thatcher would make of the state of the United Kingdom today?
Well, she'd be horrified at several levels, not least the amount of entrepreneurs, a word Labour don't like, the amount of wealth makers that Labour don't like, who are fleeing the country. She'd have had them straight back. I'm praying that in the budget in November, Rachel Reeves will say, you can all come back. We could have, just like the wicked Italians and the wicked Mrs. Maloney, who's stealing our top people. We could have a £250,000 golden passport, which they'd be only too happy to pay. And we'd make billions because they'd frankly rather live in London than they would in Milan. But the clever Mrs. Maloney has said, no inheritance tax, no tax on your earnings abroad, only on your earnings in the country, plus 250,000 passport.
Now, Jeffrey, she was known as the Iron Lady. She had an iron will, she knew what she thought, and she stuck to it. But I've found it fascinating meeting people who knew her well personally, just how much they liked her, how loyal they felt towards her. What was she like as a person?
She was, particularly after leaving office, when Mary and I became very close friends, she was a very normal human being. But may I pick up an earlier point you just made? She was not the Iron Lady at the beginning. At the end of her first year, if there had been a vote on whether she remained, they'd have got rid of her. And we have this foolish thing now where we keep getting rid of Conservative leaders every year. We mustn't do it again. She would have gone. And I'll put an idea to you that applies even more to everyone in the street. They'd have got rid of Alex Ferguson at the end of his first year at Manchester United. I'm saying very firmly to my party, cling on to the leader you've got and prepare for the next election and stop wasting your time thinking about replacing her.
Well, and on Kemi Badenoch, because of course she is not polling exceptionally well at the moment, Geoffrey. What do you think Thatcher would make of the new Conservative Party leader? Do you think she'd like her? Because of course she has tried to sort of fashion Thatcher around her quite a lot, hasn't she?
Well, that's very difficult because you see, Margaret, in her first year, she had a bad first year. She had an okay second there. After the Falklands, she changed overnight and she became the Iron Lady. And frankly, 95% of the world who know who she is think of her as the Iron Lady. There you are showing pictures of her very firmly governing, which people like. But she wasn't the Iron Lady for some time. And on a personal level, she was wonderful. I mean, to be honest, she had a very personal relationship with my wife, Mary, because they were both Somerville girls and they were both chemists. So there was a different relationship with my wife than me, the politician. So it was a great privilege to know her. She was 100 yesterday, and we celebrated it at the Guildhall.
And Geoffrey, YouGov did a poll yesterday of 4,500 adults asking them who would be their top choice of Prime Minister. They could pick from any over the last 50 years. Margaret Thatcher was the most popular. 29% of people said that they would choose her. Does that surprise you?
No, of course not. Mind you, I am bound to confess that I didn't realise at the time when I was working for her that she was going to have quite this esteem for such a long period. You take these things for granted at the time. She's the Prime Minister, get on with the job, report back to her, do as you're told, and then the next Prime Minister comes. And so it's only been recently, when I've seen what's happening to this beloved country, that I realise that she was very special. And in picking up your point, if I may, what would she have done during COVID? And what would she have done now? While, let's face it, France, Germany, Italy, and Britain are in financial trouble. What would she have done? We don't know, because politics has changed considerably since she was Prime Minister. There was no TikTok, there was no social media, there was no Google. She handled that. Would she have been able to handle the modern world equally well?
Geoffrey, can I ask you a very, very brief question? Do you think Starmer might have his Thatcher moment still, where he is unpopular as Thatcher was? Do you think he might have that same comeback, perhaps?
I think not. Everybody who talks to me about this, and I'm now 85 and an old foddy-doddy, but everybody who talks to me about it says that he's a thoroughly decent man, was an able lawyer, but he's not a born politician. Margaret was a born politician to her fingertips. That's what she loved doing night and day, and had to be dragged out of the job. Don't kid yourself. I was with her the day she went, and she was not a happy lady. She wanted to go on, and that might have been a mistake. It might have been that after 11 years, it was wise. In fact, I criticise myself for being at Downing Street on the night of her 10th anniversary as Prime Minister and actually raising a glass and saying to my colleagues, 10 more years. I was wrong. She might have done better to go then. And what we're seeing with Putin and what we're seeing with dictators is that when they get... Putin's over 20 years now in power, which is why he has no feeling for people on the street, no feeling for his citizens. They can die 1,000 a day as far as he's concerned. Margaret would never have tolerated that. And she, by the way, if she was around today, would have handled both Trump and Putin very well indeed. Poor things wouldn't have known what hit them.
Indeed. Jeffrey Archer, thank you so much for sharing your insights on Margaret Thatcher this morning.
Brilliant stuff.
Now, Alex, so Margaret Thatcher would be the most popular Prime Minister of the last 50 years. Do you know who came second?
No.
Tony Blair.
Really?
12%. And no other former Prime Minister achieved more than 6% of British people's popularity. Isn't that interesting? So by far and away, the most important leader.
Oh, scary that Tony Blair is still kicking about, isn't it? He might as well be Prime Minister with the way things are.
Maybe, who knows?
Who knows? He might be the next one. Anyway, up next
on that
topic, the latest on the digital ID debacle. Here's their Technology Secretary, Liz Kendall.
Bringing in a new digital ID is about far more than replacing numerous bits of paper just to prove who you are. It's about changing the way the state interacts with its citizens. Second reason for introducing digital ID is to offer greater security and actually greater control over your own data.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst the UK enjoys some settled, albeit cloudy weather this week, it's going to be increasingly wet on Wednesday in Sardinia and Corsica. Also some patchy rain moving into Madeira, 1 or 2 showers for the Canary Islands, but a lot of fine weather for Iberia at the moment, having seen this low move away. But that's the low bringing some very lively thunderstorms on Wednesday to Sardinia and Corsica, eventually moving through southern Italy into Greece as well, turning things unsettled later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdley, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Welcome back. Now, MPs have been warned that digital ID cards could lead to people choosing their own gender.
Oh, it's so tedious, isn't it? I know. Experts and women's rights groups are worried gender self-IDs will be introduced via the back door.
Well, the government says that the new digital ID system will be designed to ensure that everyone who has a right to work in the UK can prove it easily and securely.
Let's hear from the Director of Campaigns for Sex Matters, Fiona McAnena. Fiona, thank you so much for joining us. We saw this happen. We're hearing that it's going to happen across the EU, don't we? So is it any surprise that this would be replicated here in the United Kingdom?
Well, this is something that's been going on in the background for a while, and we've been raising the alarm about the problem, which is that people think they can trust government data sources, and they can't, because some of that data has been messed up for years. And that's the real issue here. Whether you like digital ID or you don't, it is not reliable, because people like the Passport Office will let you change the sex marker on your ID just by sending them a letter. The NHS the healthcare records are in even more of a mess. Some of those have got 3 different fields where you can record your sex. So you can have your legal gender, your gender identity, what they call your sex assigned at birth, which of course is simply observed and recorded. And how is a system supposed to make sense of all that? And yet, if a government identity system presents a fact that says you're a man or you're a woman, people are going to believe that. They're going to have to rely on it. So there's a huge mess here with the data that needs to be sorted out before the government can even think about issuing digital IDs.
And Fiona, can you briefly give us an example of a situation in which having the inaccurate sex on your digital ID might lead to harm, let's say?
Yes, well, as you know, some gyms nowadays are open 24/7. They operate without staff. You get access to the men's or the women's changing rooms based on how you register as a member. And already people can have a government-backed identity app on their mobile phone that says they're either male or female. And already they can get that based on false information that they have sent to the Passport Office that simply says, I was born male, but I'm living as a woman now, whatever that means. And please, can you change my passport to say female? They don't even know how many people have done that. It could be 50,000, it could be 100,000. So, young women going into a gym when it's not staffed and going into the changing rooms could find themselves confronted by a man in there who has got access to the women's changing rooms when he should not be there.
Fiona McAnena there, Director of Campaigns for Sex Matters, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, we have some breaking news to bring you now, and the former Premier League referee David Coote has pleaded guilty at Nottingham Crown Court to making an indecent image of a child. We will bring you the latest on that as we have it.
Still ahead, all eyes are on Southwark Crown Court as the Afghan migrant who threatened to kill Nigel Farage on TikTok is being sentenced shortly. We will bring you all the latest on that on Britain's Newsroom. See you shortly.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's a dull start for many of us, and that's the way it's likely to continue through the rest of the day, with high pressure in charge, but that high pressure trapping a lot of low cloud, even some drizzle and some mist, but it's not cloudy everywhere. There are some decent breaks for, say, parts of West Wales, the southwest, as well as central and western Scotland. In fact, that's where the lion's share of sunshine will be heading into the afternoon. The thickest cloud towards the east and the southeast, where there'll also be some drizzly showers from time to time. Temperatures under the thick cloud, 14 to 16 Celsius, but where we get some sunshine coming through, could get up to the high teens in places, for example, parts of western Scotland, although the north of Scotland subject to cloudier skies and some light showers from time to time, particularly for Shetland and Orkney. 11 Celsius as we end the day here. A lot of clear skies, though, remaining through the Highlands and to the Western Isles as well. Blue skies, beautiful afternoon and evening to come. But for much of the Midlands, the south and east of England, that's where the thickest cloud will remain. Some cloud breaks towards western fringes, and where we do get cloud breaks overnight, temperatures will fall into the mid or even low single figures, perhaps a touch of frost in places, even some mist and fog patches by dawn. But for many, we keep the cloud, and that cloud will continue to give some light showers, particularly through the North Sea coast and into the English Channel coast as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday starts similar to Thursday, with a lot of low cloud around, that low cloud drifting somewhat aimlessly across the country. Some reasonable cloud breaks, some sunshine coming through in the south of England, south and west Wales and northern Scotland. But elsewhere, it's simply another cloudy day with temperatures a little bit lower compared with Tuesday, mid-teens for many of us.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 11 a.m. on Tuesday, the 14th of October. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with me, Alex Armstrong, and Miriam Gates.
Well, will there be peace in the Middle East? Donald Trump has celebrated a new chapter in history.
It took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up.
But President Trump says he's only getting started as he sets out his sights on peace in Ukraine. Meanwhile, our Prime Minister takes credit for a deal some say he did absolutely nothing to achieve.
I'm ready in relation to monitoring the ceasefire and decommissioning Hamas capability and weaponry.
Also, unfortunately for Sir Keir Starmer, his interaction with Donald Trump at the Peace Summit in Egypt has gone viral for all the wrong reasons.
Come here. Is everything going good? Very good. That's very nice of you here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice.
That suggestions that the government concealed evidence, withdrew witnesses, or restricted the ability of witnesses to draw on particular bits of evidence are all untrue.
Security Minister Dan Jarvis insists Labour have nothing to hide over the collapse of the trial against the two alleged Chinese spies. Find out how MI5 have got involved.
Jonathan Powell's deputy Matthew Collins is now in the focus here of who didn't pass on or deal with the information the CPS had to have. The government says they did nothing wrong, as did Mr. Collins, but the Tories are mounting pressure. 10 days on, this issue has not gone away.
And in a GB News exclusive, we've been told that the grooming gangs inquiry has become a legal mess and may be diluted. We'll have the latest.
And is there going to become a smacking ban in England? Well, former footballer Alan Shearer and the actor Michael Caine join calls for the Prime Minister to lead with courage and outlaw smacking children in England.
And are women set to be excluded? Well, a London mosque has banned girls over 12 and women from a charity park fun run. Find out why. Alex, I do think that clip of Starmer and Trump is going to go around the world several times before people get bored of it. And it just shows how exposed world leaders are. Anything can happen on the world stage and mostly beyond your control.
Particularly when Donald Trump's up there with you. I mean, you never know what he's going to do, but I just thought it was absolutely hilarious. I must have watched the clip about 50,000 times last night. It's just his face. This is when he goes back and he's behind, looking over Trump's shoulder like, I could have been presenting to the world. And then he has to go back and stand there with that face on there, poor guy.
Well, you were saying earlier, though, that Trump's really funny, but he doesn't realise. But I wonder if he's actually a lot more witty than we give him credit for, because his comments to Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, who he actually called the president, but then backtracked and laughed and called him a governor. I mean, that was quite quick thinking. I think he kind of plays a different persona depending on what's needed for the occasion.
Could very well be the case. Georgia Maloney's face. If you see that clip again, just watch her eyes as she sees what's going on there. It's just, I mean, it's brilliant, isn't it? You couldn't write it as a comedy sketch. Absolutely.
And she is incredibly expressive. I don't think she likes Macron at all. No. And some of the facial expressions she's made after shaking his hand are quite amusing. Have a look at those ones on Google. Well, do let us know what you think about that and all the other topics that we're covering today. gbnews.com/your say.
But first, here's your news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Morning, the top stories from the GB Newsroom. That breaking news that former Premier League referee David Coote has pleaded guilty to making an indecent image of a child. The 43-year-old was charged in August following an investigation by Nottinghamshire police. He's been granted conditional bail and told he must appear in court again on the 11th of December. Elsewhere, the last 20 surviving Israeli hostages were finally reunited with their families, ending 2 years in Hamas captivity. In exchange, nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees were released under President Trump's historic peace accord. Mr. Trump said he hopes the peace agreement signed at the global summit in Egypt will lead to rebuilding of Gaza.
And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is
finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu echoed the same message.
Mr. President, you are committed to this peace. I am committed to this peace. And together, Mr. President, we will achieve this peace.
And emotional images have emerged of hostages reuniting with their families, including a woman who reunited with her boyfriend after 2 years. Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghardt, says he has high hopes for long-term peace.
Well, we've got to have hope. We've got to have hope. I think what you saw yesterday was a huge international desire for peace, and you saw all of those world leaders turning up to be with President Trump to support what's going on in the Middle East. And let's just hope that the fighting is ended. We're very, very pleased that the Israeli hostages appear to be coming home finally after their terrible ordeal. We're pleased that the shooting has stopped, and we're pleased that aid is going to be going into Gaza. So, look, there's a very, very long road to travel, but this is how good things start.
In other news, thousands of homes fitted with insulation under a flagship government scheme now need major work or risk damp and mould. That's according to the public spending watchdog. A damning report by the National Audit Office said clear failures in the energy company obligation scheme to tackle fuel poverty and pollution had led to low-quality installations and even potential fraud. It blamed incompetent subcontractors and weak monitoring and government oversight for the issues, which in extreme cases could cause fires. Nearly a third of the homes that were given internal insulation also need fixing, it said. Energy Consumer Minister Martin McCluskey said the government was taking action and that the homes would be fixed at no cost to the consumer. Elsewhere, wage growth in the UK cooled slightly over the summer as unemployment ticked up marginally. Annual growth in employees' average earnings was 4.7% in the 3 months to August, down from 4.8% over the 3 months to July, according to new data from the ONS. The national unemployment rate rose slightly from 4.7% to 4.8%. The ONS says the unemployment rate should be treated with caution and is taking additional steps to address concerns about the quality of the data. An Afghan migrant who came to the UK on a small boat is to be sentenced for making a threat to kill Reform UK leader Nigel Farage in a TikTok post. Mr Farage arrived at Southwark Crown Court this morning, where 26-year-old Fayaz Khan will be sentenced for making a threat to kill him. We'll have the latest throughout the day. The court's heard so far today that Khan is believed to have given a false name to British authorities because of his criminal record in Sweden. Swedish authorities believe he's called Fayaz Hosseini and is 31. He claimed he gave a different name because he has enemies. He said that he did not want to find him, the court heard. The government says the National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell was not involved in the decision to drop charges against 2 men accused of spying for China. That's after prosecutors unexpectedly dropped charges against Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry last month. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch claimed the case collapsed because the government had refused to give the Crown Prosecution Service vital information as it wanted to, quote, curry favour with China. Security Minister Dan Jarvis dismissed claims the government deliberately collapsed the case as baseless. People should plan for potential cyber attacks by going back to pen and paper, according to the latest advice. The government has written to chief executives across the country strongly recommending that they should have physical copies of their plans at the ready as a precaution. A recent spate of hacks has highlighted the chaos that can ensue when hackers take computer systems down. The warning comes as the National Cyber Security Centre reported an increase in nationally significant attacks this year. Criminal hacks on Marks & Spencer, the Co-op and Jaguar Land Rover have led to empty shelves and production lines being halted this year as the companies struggled without their computer systems. And former British Olympic athletics coach Vicente Medal has been charged with child sex offences, the Crown Prosecution Service has announced. 65-year-old Medal, the husband of former Olympic middle distance runner Diane Medal, will appear in court today to face 19 separate charges, including sexual assault of a child, rape and controlling and coercive behaviour. All charges relate to the same woman between 2012 and 2024, the CPS said. It follows an investigation by Greater Manchester Police into the Norwegian national. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of the markets. The pound buying you $1.3279 and €1.1487. The price of gold is £3,119.68 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,442 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Alex Armstrong and Miriam Cates.
Right. Well, we've just had some interesting news because a YouGov poll has been out today, and it's, of course, covering the period of Conservative Party conference. Interestingly, in this poll, no bounce for Kemi Badenoch following that massive speech, which was heavily praised. It was a really good speech by Kemi Badenoch, I have to say. And not that I'm always her biggest fan, but I think it was a very good speech. However, it hasn't broken through. And they have stayed equal at 17% from the previous YouGov poll. So Greens are hitting a record. Everyone else has stayed the same. Lib Dems are down a point. Greens are doing exceptionally well here at 13%. So they're getting a bigger bounce than anybody at the moment.
And it wasn't just the speech, Alex, which of course was highly acclaimed, but it was also the policy announcements, some key policy announcements on the ECHR, on deportations, stamp duty to be scrapped, and also quite significant cuts to sickness benefits for mental health, which a lot of people have been calling for. So from the Conservatives' point of view, they've finally announced the policy that people were calling for, and it doesn't yet seem to have made any difference.
This is the problem, isn't it? And I was saying this on the day, and many people were saying, oh, the Conservatives are back. I said, actually, what will be the real test for the Tories is next year in the council elections. Can they beat reform? Can they hang on to some of the critical councils? And that's going to be where she lives or dies politically on. Unfortunately, one speech will not change the public's mind. Most people don't even listen to these speeches. That's the reality, isn't it?
Yes, and they do. The two parties on the right, the Conservatives and Reform, do now seem to be in quite similar positions from a policy perspective. Notably, Nigel Farage has ditched the massive tax cut that was in his last manifesto, ditched that yesterday, making them look more fiscally responsible. I think that's the idea. So they are now competing for the same voters, and frankly, people don't trust the Conservatives in the same way that they're willing to give Reform a chance.
That's it. Well, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. And meanwhile, let's get back to a story about China spies, shall we?
Yes, the government has said that the National Security Advisor, Jonathan Powell, was not involved in the decision to drop the charges against two men who were accused of spying for China. But, of course, this is really important for people watching at home. This is not just a story from a James Bond film, although it kind of sounds like it could become one. But it's just indicative of how deeply embedded the Chinese are in terms of Chinese businesses, Chinese intelligence, Chinese operatives in our daily lives. And I think it's quite astonishing how much of, for example, our steel industry the Chinese own. A third of the Hinkley Point nuclear plant. We are very, very embedded with Chinese money.
It's deeply worrying. And then there's obviously all these political questions that have fallen out as a result of this scandal that happened over a week ago. It was exposed over a week ago now, because, of course, we're looking at Chagos, and Mauritius, a close ally of China. These are the sorts of things that people are going, oh, we went cap in hand to China. Didn't the Chancellor fly out there, David Lammy, all these top secretaries of state? How bad is it? How beholden are we to China?
Well, to answer that question, let's go to our GB News political editor, Christopher Hope. Chris, Alex has just been saying how beholden we are to the Chinese. It became clear this week just how much of our national debt the Chinese own. The government has a real problem, doesn't it, in standing up to China?
Yeah, the problem we have as a country is, what is China in relation to us? Is it a hostile state or an ally of sorts to do trade with? Now, there's one part of government around here would like to do more trade with China to try and boost the economy. We're expecting a visit of Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, to China next year. Rachel Reeves, of course, our Chancellor, went back in January. That's one part of the Chinese puzzle. The other part, though, is what is China up to? Is it a malign state trying trying to undermine our institutions. And certainly over the past, I would say nearly decade, we've been hearing repeatedly from former spies, from senior people with knowledge of our security, that China is trying to hack into parts of our apparatus and cause problems for our country. So you set that against the need to trade with them, and that is almost the seesaw, which is where this story is going, forward and back. Now, about 10 days ago, the Telegraph revealed claims that Jonathan Powell, who's the most senior security advisor to Keir Starmer, he had stepped in and said, no, we can't carry on with this, and there was claims that may be more concerned about pressure from the Treasury for trade. That's firmly denied by Jonathan Powell. Parliament is now back. On the first day yesterday in the House of Commons, we heard from the government again on this. His deputy, Matthew Collins, was apparently dealing with an espionage case going back to before this government was elected, and it was said there by Damien Collins, who is the Dan Jarvis, who is the security minister, that in fact the law is outdated. It dated from 1910, the Official Secrets Act, and that meant that you have to consider a foreign country an enemy before any charges could be brought. So it really hinges now not on Jonathan Powell but on Matthew Collins, his deputy, and today other people who know him, Simon Case, a former cabinet secretary, he's piling in, saying that he's an outstanding official. So the whole debate really is, how do we view China? It goes back to this case falling apart against two individuals who worked in Parliament. That's annoyed Lindsay Hoyle. He said yesterday that he's concerned that we have payment for spying what I believe we have been protecting. He believes Parliament was being spied on. He said as much in the House of Commons. The two individuals denied that, and that is where we are. This will carry on. It's now about day 12, I think, of this scandal, I think, developing, and yet again I think goes to the very heart of the problem. Is China friend or foe? And that issue, I think, is yet to be answered by this government.
Christopher Hope, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on that everlasting scandal. Let's see how it goes down tomorrow in PMQs, shall we? That'll be a very telling moment indeed. Well, it is a story that should run, Alex. We can't just stop trying to find out what's happened here, because this is hugely consequential. This is not just an average common or garden government scandal about who's paid their tax or not. This has huge implications for national security. Indeed it does, and our relationship with the biggest superpower in the world, the United States of America, as it's emerged. Well, moving on to our next story, former England footballer Alan Shearer and the actor Sir Michael Caine have joined calls for the Prime Minister to ban smacking. Well, smacking is already banned in Wales and Scotland, but in England and Northern Ireland, the Children's Act allows for the practice in cases where it is deemed reasonable punishment. Well, petitioners have signed a letter to Sir Keir Starmer, which Downing Street will receive later today, urging the Prime Minister to end this so-called damaging and harmful practice. Well, joining us now is parenting expert Kalini Kent. Kalini, thank you so much for joining us. I have to say, I'll just give you my opinion on this. I was smacked a little bit when I was a kid. It didn't do me any long-term harm, and of course there is a line between abusing a child and smacking a child. Are we just getting too soft here?
I don't think so, and I appreciate a lot of us may be smacked gently when we were a child, and we're not talking about situations where children are in the context of a loving, caring family home. What we're looking at is the children who aren't, and there are, and I mean, I will just give you some statistics, which is what's led to all of this, is that there's been a 300% increase in contacts to the helpline for the NSPCC. And it's also been proven that it's now it's escalating. So we're not talking about, you know, most parents who do look after their children, who are obviously trying to teach them safety. But what we're doing is we're talking about the children who then, the types of harm are things like slapping, using implements, and it's when it escalates.
Well, let me stop you there, Kalini, because using implements is already illegal. Reasonable chastisement means not leaving a mark, doing it with an open hand, not a closed fist. So those things are already illegal. And then secondly, using a rise in contacts to the NSPCC at a time when the rise of contacts to pretty much every single agency you can think of has increased because of the availability of digital technology. Children have phones. They did not have phones 15 years ago. That seems to me a very unsound basis to claim that there's been a rise in harmful behaviour.
It isn't, I don't think, with all due respect, it's not just about that. It's about, this isn't a smacking ban, this isn't about reasonable chastisement, nor is it about creating a new offence. It's actually, nor is it about criminalising parents who are doing what their best for their children. What it's about giving children equal protection. We cannot slap, hit, assault an adult. So what it is it's children who are having lesser protection because there is that defence of reasonable chastisement.
But there's a very good reason why children and adults are treated differently in law. Children, for example, are not allowed to smoke or drink or have sex. They can't make legal decisions for themselves. They are minors. We call them minors in law. They have to be treated differently, don't they?
Yes, they do have to be treated differently, but equally that we're looking at the minority of group, but it is a minority group still, but we are looking at children who are not protected because there are parents who do, or adults who do actually treat them inappropriately. And there's a lot of statistics. It's been shown as well that in the countries, there are 70 countries now who have this ban. And it's been proven that where there is the ban, it does reduce the incidence of this happening.
Kalini, if the role of this ban isn't to criminalise parents, what is the point of it? It needs to be a deterrent if you're going to do it. Not that I think we should be doing this, by the way, but surely if it's going to have any legs, it needs to have a strong deterrent.
Absolutely. The purpose of the ban of implementing, it's to ban the actual defence where any child can be smacked for whatever reason. It's because that's being abused. And it's also been proven, it's been proven that children, it can lead to trauma, it can lead to them having increased anxiety and stress. The physical punishment itself also lowers their self-esteem, their confidence. There's increased long-term risks of depression, antisocial behaviour. There's been so many statistics to actually show that this is the case. And also evidence from other countries. And also, let's look at it another way. Scotland and Wales have banned it. In England, it's not. So it's almost like a postcode lottery. It's almost like, depending on which country you live in, that child is subject to more protection than another country. And that in itself isn't fair. So what we're trying to do is, there are other better ways as well of managing a child's behaviour. If the child is acting inappropriately, the best way of communicating what they should or shouldn't do is when that child is not emotionally dysregulated or fearing any form of physical punishment. It's when you're actually helping them to understand the impact of their behaviour. You're also helping them to think about more appropriate ways of behaving. So it is about finding other ways other than physical punishment, because it has been shown...
Kalini, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We do have to leave it there, unfortunately, but thank you so much for coming on. I can see Miriam's rearing to go. We need to get you two to a head-to-head debate. Kalini Kent, parenting expert, thank you so much for joining us. Still ahead.
As all eyes are on Southwark Crown Court as the Afghan migrant who threatened to kill Nigel Farage on TikTok is being sentenced soon.
Up next, there is backing across Europe for ECHR reform, supposedly, as it's reported today that banning transgender women from female toilets risk breaching the European Convention on Human Rights. What utter madness.
You're watching Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome.
Well, go on, Mary. I'm sorry. I'm stealing your thunder.
You go.
No, it's all right. You go.
Yeah, you go.
All right, yeah, I'll do it then. All right. It's 11:30 a.m. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom with me, Alex Armstrong, and Miriam Cates.
Well, we have our illustrious panel back in the studio. Political commentator Piers Pottinger and GB News' senior commentator Nigel Nelson. What should we start with, Nigel?
Well, we were thinking of doing the China spy trial.
Yes.
This has been, and trying to make it terribly simple. So if we're simplifying it, we've got 2 guys who are charged with espionage for China. They deny the charges. Prosecution was going ahead. Prosecution suddenly collapses. Now there's a blame game going on. So the questions really are whether or not the Tories are right and the government intervened to stop the trial going ahead, as Kemi Badenoch puts it, to curry favour with China, or the government is right that because of the way the law worked at the time the offence is committed, they couldn't go ahead. So the question, the real nub of the question is, did the government interfere with an independent judicial process?
Well, the real problem is the government has changed its story on this 4 times. It said different things on almost every day. Now they're trying to pin the blame for all of this on a civil servant, the deputy to Jonathan Powell, who isn't a civil servant, the first national security advisor ever not to be a civil servant. He's a political appointment, therefore unaccountable in the way, in my view, he should be. This is a real mess, and although at the moment it seems to be a political issue, particularly in Whitehall, I think it has the possibility to grow and grow. Next week, on October the 23rd, is supposedly the date when the government will announce whether China can build its new embassy in London, which is not so much an embassy as a fortress with sleeping for 200 people and also an enormously big area that has been redacted in the planning applications. And one can only assume they've redacted it because it's a spying operation. Now, the Chinese themselves are also giving us problems with our embassy in Beijing by turning off the water and playing all kinds of tricks on our Foreign Office staff there when things happen that they think Britain's being anti-Chinese, because that's the kind of petty communist way. If we start, and I am told that Jonathan Powell has privately told the Chinese they will approve the embassy, there's a possibility they will delay the announcement because they realise how sensitive it would be now to announce approval given the spying scandal that's going on at the moment. What is clearly wrong, A, is government interference in our judicial system.
If it happened.
If it happened. But what is definitely a mess is the 4 different stories they've peddled so far. And I cannot believe, and I don't believe anyone in this country would believe, that a civil servant was alone responsible for stopping a trial. If that's the case, that is also wrong. So something somewhere, there's a really nasty smell about this that is only going to get worse.
I mean, really the big next stage will be Prime Minister's questions tomorrow. I mean, this gives Kemi Badenoch a chance directly to question Keir Starmer about this, and he's got to be really careful because obviously he's got to tell Parliament the absolute truth. So that's going to be a really interesting PMQs tomorrow.
Well, let's hope she does it, because she has had these open goals, as I call them before, and she hasn't
she's very bad at
kicked it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And I really want to see her, because we need, this is the accountability we haven't had for a very long time. There's been multiple scandals since Parliament was dissolved, and now everyone's back. I'm hoping she's going to really kick it in the back of the net.
And this is about national security of this country. It is vitally important. And if Labour are playing with our security for the sake of trying to patch a few trade deals up to make them look better, then that's an absolute outrage.
Do you think we're quite naive in this country as well, living as we have done in a liberal democracy for so long? We consider it normal that business and politics and government are separate, and yet we've heard reported in the time that Xingye, who own British Steel and Scunthorpe, promised to forgive a £1 billion debt that they say the government owe them if the planning permission for the Chinese embassy is approved.
Sure.
Proof that they are linked inextricably.
Yeah, I mean, Xi is a bully. The Chinese Communist Party rule by fear and terror in their country. Let's be clear about this. And they are, without any doubt, they pose a major threat, not only to us, but to the whole of the West.
Yes, I certainly agree.
It's a cultural difference, really. I mean, the way the Chinese see the world and the way that we see the world is completely different.
Yeah,
the Chinese, we value the individual and individual rights. The Chinese argue that government is about for the benefit of the masses.
Indeed.
Now, without saying which one is right and which one is wrong, they're just different outlooks on everything.
Yeah, and of course we've got to give fair criticism to the Conservative Party as their time in government as well, because of course we opened the door to China and they flooded it with all their technology and their investments.
David Cameron had pints with the president.
Yeah, so there's fair blame to be passed across all parties here. Let's move on, shall we? Because President Trump has signalled he wants to tackle the Ukraine peace crisis, I call it, because it hasn't really evolved from a peace deal, has it, since that famous meeting in Alaska?
It is still a war crisis.
War crisis, indeed.
And it would be quite something if President Trump could actually end 2 wars in a week. But this doesn't seem to be the idea. Zelensky is going to the White House on Friday. He's going with a list of targets in Russia that if President Trump gives him some long-range Tomahawk missiles, he will then shoot those at Russia, hit their energy infrastructure, and that is the way the war might end.
Yeah, and
simple.
At the moment, we also have given the Ukrainians quite a lot of long-range missiles, but we have instructed them not to fire them into Russia, which is absurd.
Indeed.
I mean, hopefully, Trump will get tough on Putin, and if Trump does get tough, he has a habit of winning.
Strength through peace, perhaps strength through peace? Peace through strength.
Both.
As I said earlier.
Both. Sounds good. Well, thank you both for unpacking that for us, and we'll be back soon. But here is your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good morning. The top stories. The last 20 surviving Israeli hostages were finally reunited with their families, ending 2 years in Hamas captivity. In exchange, nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees were released under President Trump's historic peace accord. Mr. Trump said he hopes the peace agreement signed at the global summit in Egypt will lead to the rebuilding of Gaza. Former Premier League referee David Coote has pleaded guilty to making an indecent image of a child. The 43-year-old was charged in August following an investigation by Nottinghamshire police. He's been granted conditional bail and told he must appear in court again on the 11th of December. Thousands of homes fitted with insulation under a flagship government scheme now need major work. or risk damp and mould, the public spending watchdog has warned today. People should plan for potential cyber attacks by going back to pen and paper, according to the latest advice. The government has written to chief executives across the country, strongly recommending that they should have physical copies of their plans at the ready as a precaution. Those are the latest headlines. More in half an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Well, coming up next at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana. What's coming up on the show?
Well, there is this sentencing of the small boat migrant who threatened to kill Nigel Farage. Now, of course, he's already been convicted for that. What sentence is he going to get? And, of course, amidst all that, in the last 4 days we've got data for 2,000, almost 2,000 small boat migrants came. It's the biggest year of small boat arrivals on record.
And it's kind of quite sad because Keir Starmer, the government is hoping that because now Gaza is allegedly safer, that will reduce the number of boat migrants. And that's pretty sad, really, that we are relying now on things that we have no control of to ensure the numbers go down. So that's another thing. Another big thing I happened to catch last night was Elon Musk, SpaceX.
Oh,
Did you see the rocket go up?
I love it. I love it.
The rocket go up.
And it didn't blow up. It didn't blow up.
It didn't blow up. Mars.
Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Mission to Mars.
In our lifetimes, that would be brilliant. This is the largest and most powerful rocket that has ever flown. And we've seen 11 of these flights now. Now, a lot of them have ended in what Elon Musk calls a rapid, unscheduled disassembly, or as you and I might say, an explosion. This one they seem to have ironed out the kinks. It went up. Still, of course, a prototype, but my goodness me, it was a very successful flight. And it's incredible because it lands as well. And I always, when I see the boosters being caught, it makes me quite emotional, actually, because it's an incredible achievement for humanity, isn't it? It's such a step forward, and given that the space flight has sort of been stagnant for the last 50 years. You know, the last time that man went to the moon was more than 50 years ago. 1972, December 1972. That's before Britain joined the European Economic Community. Good times ahead then. Man will never have set foot on the moon while Britain has been a member of the European Union.
That's a fact for a public.
He's trying to get to Mars, though. But my concern is that when he gets there, it's like, what do we do now?
What do we do now? What do we do?
Sustaining civilization. We should also say the Prime Minister's speaking in Parliament, so we'll be getting that live.
Fantastic stuff. Looking forward to it both.
Well, all that and more up at midday, but next...
Next, girls and women are banned from a Muslim park run. Is this Sharia Britain? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The skies remain fairly grey for the vast majority. Most places, though, having another dry day and some spots seeing a little bit of sunshine. The fairly static weather patterns because of a chunky area of high pressure pretty much just sitting right over us, trapping that layer of cloud in, keeping the skies grey. That cloud is thick enough for a little bit of drizzly rain at times, particularly over parts of eastern England and northern Scotland, but across central and western Scotland, that's where we do have some good breaks in the cloud, some sunshine here, and maybe at times parts of southwest England and West Wales. But for many, it is just dull and on the coolish side. Temperatures 13, 14 degrees, but get a bit of sunshine because the winds are light. Feels quite pleasant with temperatures of 15 or 16 where it does brighten up. Northern Scotland's seeing more clouds and a few showers continuing to affect the Northern Isles in particular as we head into the evening time. But much of the mainland of Scotland will have largely clear skies through this evening. For Northern Ireland, I think mostly cloudy here, as it will be for England and Wales, but just some pockets, particularly in the west, perhaps in the southeast with a bit more breeze. But still that cloud thick enough, especially Lincolnshire, East Anglia, for a little bit of light rain and drizzle at times as the breeze continues in here. That'll be the pattern overnight as well, where we've got clear skies. It will turn a bit cold across western Scotland, maybe some mist and fog patches too, but most places just staying dry and cloudy. Breaks in the cloud could allow temperatures to dip down into single figures. Where it stays cloudy, we're looking at lows of 10 or 11 again, and it's a very similar story tomorrow. Again, thickest cloud across northern Scotland with a few showers over the Northern Isles. Thicker cloud in eastern parts of England with a bit of drizzly rain. Clearest skies, West Wales, southwest England and Scotland, where we will see some sunny spells. The vast majority, though, again, dry, but mostly cloudy, with temperatures struggling into the low teens.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Now, women and girls over the age of 12 were banned by a London mosque from taking part in a charity fun run.
Yes, the event held in an East London park allows men, boys and girls under 12 years old to join, but forbids female teenagers and women from taking part.
Now, mosque leaders insist that their policy does not breach the Equality Act, but campaigners have branded it plainly unlawful and regressively sexist.
When I saw this story, I was quite shocked because one of the problems we've got in this country is that we fought a very, very long time, and women fought very hardly for their rights to have full equality. And it does seem, and not every Muslim community or culture, because I think there's different variations of Islam in this country, depending on the culture that you're from, but some indeed do seem to have this really strong sense of wanting to segregate men and women. I saw a post from Police Scotland as well. I won't mention where, but they also were running a community event where, of course, the mosque had women and men divided. And I think this is a very difficult issue for Britain because, of course, not all Muslims believe in segregation, but unfortunately we are seeing it become more and more prevalent. It does raise the question of Sharia law, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, joining us now to discuss this, we have Khadija Khan, who's the politics and culture editor at A Further Inquiry. Khadija, thank you so much for joining. Do you think this park run is sexist, or should it be lawful to discriminate in this way?
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, this event is a shameful event for us as a society because this event was organized under the pretext of an inclusive and family event from which women and girls above 12 years old had been excluded, and it's a shameful thing to do. But the fact is, the religious and cultural beliefs that impose unwarranted, detrimental, undesirable restrictions on women and girls have been normalized in our society to an extent where people don't even bother now if a male-only event takes place in a religious setting where women and girls are being discriminated on the basis of their gender within certain section of Muslim communities. So though people are saying it's unlawful, however, this has been normalized in our society under the pretext of multiculturalism or, their culture, their religion, and we ought to respect it. And I find it really, really concerning because it is impacting those people who are already marginalized in, religiously conservative communities here in Britain.
Yeah, and Khadija, of course, thanks. It's lovely to see you again. I guess the difficulty here is that when people speak out against this, they're called Islamophobic or racist. What will it take to change this? Because I don't think there should be religious exceptions for equality in this country. I think as soon as we create those, we are creating a segregated society and head towards sectarianism. How do we tackle this? What do you think the best practice would be?
I think it's a very concerning thing that whenever we want to talk about in Islam, in certain conservative section of Muslim communities here in Britain, we are labelled as racist and Islamophobic. I mean, can we genuinely engage in an open and honest discussion about, Islamic culture and, belief, ritual, tradition contributing to this situation without fear of repercussions? I fear we cannot. And the moment we criticize misogyny that stems from Islamic discourse, people, they conflate it with anti-Muslim bigotry, and then there is a noise, there is an outcry to just shut down all the debate altogether. I mean, that is a concerning moment for all of us. But how can we tackle it? How can we counter this trend? We have to speak out. We have to talk about these things as much as we can. Dialogue, discussion. We cannot be silent if people are just accusing us of being an Islamophobe just for merely discussing women's rights in Islam, because religion, any religion, including Islam, is not above scrutiny. And there are certainly some discriminatory and highly and deeply misogynistic, teachings and practices and traditions and rituals which ought to be, scrutinized for the betterment of women and girls.
Khadija Khan, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, an East London mosque spokesman said this: the suggestion that our event breaches the Equality Act is entirely incorrect. Single-gender sporting events are lawful, the Act, and are common across the UK, including the Women's Run Series, Nike's Women's 10K, and gender-segregated swimming sessions at Orthodox Jewish facilities like Manchester Jewish Community Centre.
Well, the Muslim charity run operates under the same legal framework as these established events.
All right, up next, GB News' Charlie Peters has an exclusive about the grooming gang's inquiry.
Yes, Alex, we can reveal today that there are fresh concerns from survivors that the inquiry could be expanded to cover issues beyond grooming gangs, with many survivors telling GB News they fear the inquiry could be diluted, as a leading solicitor has also shared concerns that it could return after the next general election, as it's caught up in a legal mess. All that after the break.
Looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Whilst the UK enjoys some settled, albeit cloudy weather this week, it's going to be increasingly wet on Wednesday in Sardinia and Corsica. Also some patchy rain moving into Madeira, 1 or 2 showers for the Canary Islands, but a lot of fine weather for Iberia at the moment, having seen this low move away. But that's the low bringing some very lively thunderstorms on Wednesday to Sardinia and Corsica, eventually moving through southern Italy into Greece as well, turning things unsettled later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device, and as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Well, we're moving straight on because GB News' national reporter Charlie Peters joins us now to tell us about the latest developments on the grooming gang inquiry. Charlie.
Well, Alex and Miriam, we've had non-stop engagement from our audience over the summer, regularly asking for updates on this process. And in the last few weeks or so, it really has reached a crescendo. And I keep reassuring viewers who reach out directly saying, well, we are working on this, we're engaging, we're just waiting for more information. And it's come now. Today is 4 months since the inquiry was announced by Sir Keir Starmer. And in that time, we were able to reveal a couple of weeks ago that Oldham had been offered a truth project instead of an inquiry. What we're hearing today is that many survivors who've been engaging with this process are now sharing with us concerns for the first time that they fear that the inquiry could be expanded to cover more than just grooming gangs, that it could start to look at wider elements of CSE, not focus on the specific issue. And we've also heard from David Greenwood, a solicitor from Switalski's, a leading child abuse compensation lawyer, who said that he's also concerned separately that this inquiry could fall into a bit of a legal mess. And he's saying that because it was 9 months ago, they said they did these local reviews, and with the statutory inquiry announced in June, they have to gather evidence. That evidence-taking process takes a long time. And they don't have anything to feed into it because the government didn't have the way to get those processes underway in January. Oldham was meant to start. Tom Crowther, the man who was appointed to do that inquiry, he made that extraordinary evidence to the Home Affairs Select Committee saying they've not been in touch, no one's talking to me, and it's all being organised by text. It was an extraordinary interaction.
And the fear of expanding this to look at other types of child abuse, of course there's too much child abuse going on in this country, but the fear is that it won't specifically concentrate on grooming gangs as an issue and therefore things will be missed?
That's precisely the concern, because we've already had ICSA, the Independent Inquiry to Child Sexual Abuse, that 7-year-long inquiry process that looked at a wide range of issues, but where grooming gangs was a subsection of a sub-report on organised networks. They've always said that while it's a small percentage of abuse in this country, because it is so heinous and so sadistic and also involves those curious elements of ethnicity, religious and other cultural drivers that we don't yet understand, it needs that rifle shot review rather than a broad shotgun approach that previous inquiries have taken. That's what we're hearing from survivors who are sharing this concern. And this is the first piece I've run on this crisis in recent years without any pseudonyms whatsoever. All of these survivors are speaking totally anonymously because they're concerned about some reaction from those involved in the inquiry.
Well, Charlie, I think there will be, public outrage will be, to say the least, if that doesn't get diluted. We do have a right to reply here from the Home Office spokesperson. They said the abuse of children by grooming gangs is one of the most horrific crimes imaginable. We will do everything in our power to ensure these crimes never happen again. That is why we have launched a statutory inquiry equipped with the powers and resources required to get to the truth and deliver justice for the survivors.
Well, that's it from us. Tom and Nana up next.
Yes, we'll have the latest on the sentencing of the migrant who threatened to kill Nigel Farage. That live.
Plus unemployment, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It appears to be on a 4-year high. Rachel Reeves, her plans appear to be slightly misguided.
Well, we'll have all of that and so much more. Do stick with us on Good Afternoon Britain, all to come to your television or radio after the weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's a dull start for many of us, and that's the way it's likely to continue through the rest of the day, with high pressure in charge, but that high pressure trapping a lot of low cloud, even some drizzle and some mist. But it's not cloudy everywhere. There are some decent breaks for, say, parts of West Wales, the southwest, as well as central and western Scotland. In fact, that's where the lion's share of sunshine will be heading into the afternoon. The thickest cloud towards the east and the southeast, where there'll also be some drizzly showers from time to time. Temperatures under the thick cloud, 14 to 16 Celsius, but where we get some sunshine coming through, could get up to the high teens in places, for example, parts of western Scotland, although the north of Scotland subject to cloudier skies and some light showers from time to time.